People have forever been viewed as the most canny species on the planet. However, they're the third. Dolphins are the second most wise species on the planet who has consistently realized the planet would be annihilated soon. Many individuals were educated about it. In any case, their correspondence endeavors were confused with stunts. Eventually, every one of the dolphins left Earth all alone, abandoning a straightforward message, so lengthy and gratitude for all the fish. Meanwhile, a little fellow in the English wide open finds an interference to his exhausting routine when he awakens development group outside his home, aiming to annihilate the structure. In a hurry, Arthur rests on the ground in the soil between the house and the group, contending with the head engineer on the grounds that nobody had appeared educated him anything concerning this. The contention is unexpectedly interfered with by Arthur's dearest companion, Passage, who brings a truck brimming with brew to divert the group while he hauls Arthur away to the bar while he has more beverages than expected, and Passage begins acting oddly and says he's an outsider from another planet. To demonstrate it, he reminds Arthur that they met when Portage attempted to acquaint himself with a vehicle, and Arthur pushed him far removed without a moment to spare. Passage actually feels he owes Arthur for saving him his life, and presently he needs to save his companion from Earth's approaching end. Be that as it may, Arthur's occupied an image on his telephone of a lady named Trisha, which makes him miserable. He had met her at a party, and both of them had gotten along, yet when Trisha requested that Arthur accompany her to Madagascar to search for experience, Arthur turned her down since he loved his quiet English life. At that point, an ostentatious man named Zaphod cut in and removed Trisha. However, Arthur thought constantly about her. Their visit is interfered with when Arthur hears the sound of destruction, and runs back to his home, where he unfortunately finds his house is as of now gone unexpectedly. The region is covered by a gigantic shadow, and the group takes off when a Goliath spaceship shows up overhead. Passage isn't shocked. He simply hands Arthur a towel and advises him to hold tight while he lifts his thumb, which has a gleaming catching a ride ring that takes them squarely into the boat. This spaceship is instructed by a disagreeable and regulatory outsider species known as Vogons, and at that point the Vogon skipper makes an impression on the whole world, declaring that there have been plans to construct a hyperspace motorway in the world, so they'll need to annihilate Earth to move it. The planet unexpectedly winds up encompassed by Vogon boats, and all people alarm just before Earth detonates, just abandoning dust. In the interim, Arthur discovers that Portage is a writer who has been working on the Earth section for the Drifter's Manual for the Cosmic System, an all-inclusive manual with tips for any planet you might need to visit. The presence of outsiders is stunning, yet Arthur couldn't care less. He simply needs to return home, so Portage needs to illuminate him that the Vogons obliterated Earth. While Passage attempts to track down an opening in the wall to convey another message with his ring, Arthur learns about Vogons in the aid, learning they're the most unsavory species known to mankind and that their verse is a type of torment. Unexpectedly, the Vogons see the two men on the surveillance cameras and promptly send an admonition through the speaker. However, Arthur can't comprehend what they're talking about. Portage embeds a little fish in his ear and makes sense of it's the Babel fish, a little outsider that will make an interpretation of all that you hear into words you can comprehend. A lot of Vogons appear and catch Arthur and Passage to tie them up for the chief, who continues to peruse verse to them. Portage wriggles in torment. However, Arthur doesn't get what the serious deal is, in spite of the fact that, to be fair, he couldn't figure out the sonnet. At the point when the skipper inquires for their perspective, Arthur lies and says it was perfect, offering a full examination of the profound influence. In any case, the chief resents it and orders that the pair be tossed out. The Vogons disregard Arthur's and Portage's requests, and push them out of the boat. Then the pair floats in alarm for a couple of moments until unexpectedly, the shapes around them start changing until a spaceship shows up. Presently Arthur and Passage end up molded like couches inside this specific round transport. However, when they shout, they return to their standard figures. In one more piece of the boat, Zaphod, who ends up being the leader of the system, is watching the report about how he took this boat, which is known as the endearing personality. At that point, Trisha interferes with him to declare the framework has recognized drifters, which the boat got accidentally when they utilized the unlikelihood drive. Zaphod is concerned that they might be with the Cosmic System police force and gets his firearm, yet Trisha chooses to be wary and sends a robot, all things considered. This robot ends up being Marvin, who lives in a consistent discouraged state and can criticize what is going on. Marvin gets Arthur and Passage and guides them through the boat's hallways, where they notice each entryway talks as they stroll through them. In the interim, the Vogons set out a large number of boats into hyperspace to pursue the endearing personality. At the point when Malvin takes the couple to the president, Zaphod's most memorable nature is to attempt to shoot them, yet he promptly perceives Portage, and both of them embrace in light of the fact that they're far-off family members. Arthur is in shock since he recalls Zaphod from the party, yet Zaphod has no clue about what his identity is. Then Trisha shows up as well, and Arthur is really glad to see her, yet when he attempts to enlighten her concerning Earth, Zaphod approaches Arthur and compromises him into staying quiet. Arthur is creeped out when he sees Zaphod's second head concealing in his neck. It just so happens you can't be president with an entire cerebrum, so Zaphod cut it out. He likewise has an extra secret arm that he uses to hit Arthur and humiliate him before Trisha. Unexpectedly, many Vogon ships show up out of nowhere, and the Vogon commander, along with the cosmic system, the VP, requests that the gathering give up. Zaphod rejects and makes the boat go into hyperspace, causing the endearing personality to magically transport to one more spot in the cosmic system. A short time later, Arthur approaches Trisha to make up for lost time and shows how envious he is that she left with Zaphod. Trisha uncovers she's changed her name and shows Arthur every one of the cool contraptions the boat has, similar to a machine that guesses what you might be thinking and makes anything you're needing. She's constantly needed experience, and to leave their little town, so she isn't heartbroken that she picked Zaphod over Arthur. At the point when she searches for some medication for Arthur's twisted in her pack, two mice emerge from it and escape the kitchen. Then Zaphod shows the gathering a video to make sense of why he took the kind nature. Quite a long time back, a supercomputer named Profound Idea was been her request to respond to a definitive inquiry of life, the universe, and everything. It took 7 million years for Profound Idea to concoct the response, which was 42. No one figured out what that is to say, and Profound Idea made sense of it, just knew the response. So they needed to make a superior PC to get a definitive inquiry. Zaphod needs to track down a definitive inquiry for popularity, and for that, he necessitates to go to planet Magrathea, which must be reached with the kind nature's impossibility passed through experimentation. Group changes into sewed puppets. This diverts Arthur and allows the mice the opportunity to cull some hair from his head. After they get back to business as usual, they find they've shown up at Vilvodal V, the home of Zaphod's political rival. Zaphod needs to visit him, so they land the boat and meet the Jatravarded public, who I accept the universe was wheezed out of the nose of a being known as the incomparable Green Arkelseizure. The gathering intrudes on a service to petition God for the approaching of the incomparable White Cloth, and Zaphod meets with his opponent Humma to ask him for the directions to Magrathea. Humma is as yet furious that Zaphod won the political decision, yet acknowledges to give him the directions, assuming Zaphod brings them back from Magrathea is an incredible firearm. Zaphod acknowledges, and to ensure he returns, Humma takes one of his heads. The gathering leaves with the directions. However, when they emerge, they find the Vogons encompassing the structure. The Vogons quickly open fire, and the gathering races to take cover behind a segment, so Trisha concocts an arrangement to get away. She holds up a vapor sprayer against Zaphod's head, furthermore, imagines she'll kill him for the Vogons to let her pass. Sadly, the Vogons figure out how to get her and capture her on the spot prior to starting to shoot at the folks once more. Portage and Arthur gets Zaphod and hauls him back to the boat to get away. Zaphod attempts to make the boat go to Magrathea, however Arthur stops him and requests to be taken to Voxsphere, the homeworld of the Vogons, to save Trisha. The boat's man-made intelligence illuminates them that the direction framework has been deactivated, which the mice did covertly. They must choose the option to utilize an ordinary break cop and fly the conventional way minutes after the fact. The gathering shows up at Voxsphere. Since Zaphod isn't thinking plainly with only one head, Passage sets a limit for his head, on which he should press lemons like clockwork to give Zaphod's mind a kick. Then, at that point, the men start advancing toward Vogon jail, just to experience swatters on the ground that hits them each time they make a stride. Regardless of what they attempt, they can't stop them. Subsequently, the triplet goes through the swatters to arrive at the structure in outright agony. Meanwhile, Trikaye is questioned by the Vogons, and she at long last discovers that Earth was annihilated. At the point when she considering how that might have occurred, she finds Zaphod marked the administrative work without perusing it, since he assumed he was marking a signature. As discipline for seizing the president, it's concluded that Trisha will be taken care of to the avaricious bug bladder monster of Troll. At the front work area, the Vogons put the threesome through heaps of administrative claptrap and continually requested more desk work. When they're at long last finished, and the Vogon acknowledges they're attempting to rescue Trisha and make sense of she's not qualified on the grounds that seizing the president is excessively intense. Arthur and Portage make Zaphord tell as far as they might be concerned, it was every one of the a misconception, and presently they need to finish up the desk work once more utilizing official structures. After heaps of marking and box ticking, their solicitation is at long last acknowledged also. They save Trisha just before she's taken care of to the monster. Be that as it may, Trisha is unsettled to see them, and she slaps Zaphod for obliterating Earth. She's additionally furious with Arthur for deceiving her. The gathering returns the unit to the kind nature, and keeping in mind that Trisha is scrubbing down, Arthur moves toward her to apologize and to bring up that in the event that he had expressed yes to Madagascar, they would have detonated with Earth. Then, at that point, Zaphod utilizes the directions to make the impossibility drive take them to Magrathea, which puts them through a lot of entertaining shapes once more at the point when they draw nearer to the planet. They get a pre-recorded message saying the planet has been briefly shut. Zaphod overlooks it and attempts to land the boat in any case, making another message illuminate them. 2 rockets have been shipped off annihilate their boat. The simulated intelligence hands Zaphod manual controls to avoid the rockets, which make the whole boat shake like there's no tomorrow. Utilizing the unlikelihood drive as is this hazardous, however Arthur chooses to press the button in any case. After a short snapshot of choppiness, they find they're in a similar spot, and the drive impacted the rockets all things being equal. One turned into a bold dot of petunias, and the other changed into a whale that has an existential emergency before it falls on the planet. Presently the gathering can land and investigate Magrathea securely, and they experience a lot of various entries. A contention results over which one they ought to take, and Arthur is still excessively apprehensive of the risks of the unexplored world. Trisha overlooks the folks and hops into an irregular entryway, so Passage and Zaphod rapidly follow her. Arthur continues to falter, and when he at last makes up his psyche, the entry is now shut. Arthur sits with Marvin without understanding what to do and is found by a man known as Slartibartfast, who lets Arthur know that his companions are protected prior to taking him away into another entry, abandoning Marvin. They appear in a room loaded up with small-scale universes, as Slartibartfast makes sense of. His work comprises of planning and making planets, and it was his organization that made Earth. However, the destruction had been an incidental misunderstanding. Then, at that point, Slartibartfast takes Arthur to the planet production line and uncovers they are completing a duplicate of Earth they had in the framework reinforcement. In the interim, Zaphod, Trisha, and Passage at long last arrive at Profound Idea, just to view as the PC staring at the television. They pose about a definitive inquiry, however Profound Idea has terrible news. Though the PC that had the inquiry had been on the planet, it was annihilated to mean it that way. The triplet is frustrated, yet additionally recollects the other portion of the mission and goes searching for the weapon, thinking that it is inside the PC. This is the perspective weapon, which makes an individual quickly see things from the point of view of the shooter. It was made by housewives who believed that their spouses should tune and to them, in this manner ladies are safe. Trisha promptly shoots Zaphod with it to make him comprehend the reason why she's furious. Yet hearing him talk her own considerations causes Trisha to understand that she's upset since she's found life is pointless, and that she's been bouncing from one person to another to fill the opening in her heart, yet she overlooked the one person who could genuinely grasp her. Unexpectedly an entryway opens behind them, and they see several mice before a light blinds them. Back to Arthur, he hears the tale of Earth being a commission paid by mice, who are the most savvy species in the world. This time, mice had been investigating people while allowing them to accept they were the ones investigating the mice. Then, at that point, Slartibartfast takes Arthur to a reproduction of his home, and Arthur joyfully runs inside just to track down Passage, Trisha, and Zaphod at the breakfast table. There are additionally 2 talking mice that say they've been noticing people to find life's definitive inquiry, and that they'll require Arthur's genuine cerebrum to complete the investigation. Unexpectedly, Arthur is limited on his seat, and 2 little saws seem to begin the technique while his companions nod off due to something that the mice put in the food. Attempting to occupy the mice, Arthur starts posing philosophical inquiries, yet soon he's unknowingly discussing his own sentiments and how much tomfoolery he's had the previous week, contrasted with his whole past life. He additionally discusses Trisha, however since the mice couldn't care less about affection, they continue with the saws. At that point, Arthur figures out how to break the limitations and crushes the mice with a bolt. Finding that their real characters are the two outsiders. That made profound idea. Then, at that point, everybody awakens as the house begins to shake since many Vogons have arrived outside with the VP and Marvin, prepared to safeguard Zaphod from his alleged hijackers. The gathering rapidly takes off to take cover behind a RV, dropping the weapon unintentionally. At the point when Marvin attempts to go along with them, he has chanced toward the rear of his head and falls, apparently dead. While the gathering conceals inside the RV, the Vogons open fire once more and make the RV tumble to the ground. At the point when it appears to be all expectation is lost, abruptly Marvin actuates once more and uses the firearm on the Vogons, which quickly makes them all discouraged and drop to the floor without the energy to go about their responsibilities. Subsequently Slardabart fast appears to declare the new Earth is at last prepared, so he contemplates whether Arthur believes there's anything missing. Arthur says that the main thing missing will be him, and afterward he requests that Trisha join him. On the following experience, and several passes on together in the endearing personality to visit the eatery toward the finish of the universe. While Arthur and Trisha kiss, the new Earth is returned set up, and the circle of life starts again. Arthur's last words before the boat departs are that he will not go anyplace without his towel, and these words incidentally travel through a wormhole that arrives at an outsider species whose language grasps the sentence as an affront. Enraged, the outsiders travel to Earth to attack. However, it turns out they're little to such an extent that their small spaceships are gulped by a canine, demonstrating indeed that everything involves viewpoint.